there, welcome to the podcast. Excited with a special little episode dedicated to our friend AI. Yes, artificial intelligence. I've got an expert today, Tyler Moberg. He goes around and trains organizations, schools. He's actually a former educator that now focuses on helping people really embrace AI tools. And you're going to learn a ton. We're going to talk about some common misconceptions. We're going to talk about the six major AI platforms and how you should be using them. Really, some tricks and trades and best practices on how to use them to kind of streamline your approach and your use of AI. So I'm so excited. He's a very knowledgeable guy. And at the end of the day, AI is really about spending the time and learning how to use these tools to make your work more efficient and really become that thought partner. And Tyler's going to explain it all. So I'm really excited for you to meet him. And just in talking AI, talking about spending time, I just got to make a plug for our social media for schools retreat happening in June of 2026. You can register. It is filling up fast, so there are a few spots left. It's very limited. There's only 125 spots open altogether. But you can get registered today to be part of that, where AI and students as storytellers are going to be kind of our focus this year. So it happens in Stillwater, Minnesota, just happens once a year. And if you're lucky enough to come, I'll see you there. And we'll spend some time diving deep into the AI tools, which will of course have changed a lot between today's conversation and June of 2026. But it's always a good time to sit down and learn together. And that's what we're going to do today. So before we start in with this interview with Tyler, let's get to this week's K-12 PR tip. All right, today's K-12 PR tip. Is your school operating under a new cell phone policy that does not allow maybe students and staff, but definitely students to have their phones during the school day? This is something that's really come into discussion with our members in our membership group. And we're talking about, gosh, how do we grab content if we can't use our phones? And in most cases, staff are still able to use it, but in some cases not. And of course, based on your state or whether it's a school district policy, there may be some options around it. But I just want to share a few ideas that folks have come up with. I mean, one is an iPad. It's not a cell phone. It's not a mobile device. So iPads usually don't have quite as good cameras. But if you get maybe an iPad Pro or something, you can have a better camera. So that could be an option. You could use a regular camera. So we can go back to, some of those nice cameras that you can have available for students and staff to use. Some people have even utilized some money that they've made through Meta performance bonuses. That program is changing a little bit right now, but there are ways to actually monetize some of your content that you're sharing out on platforms like Facebook. And one school actually in Texas earned $10,000 last year. And so she was able to use that money to buy devices then that her students could now use. Some are using GoPro cameras. Those are nice because there's a Wi-Fi connection, so it makes it a little bit easier to be able to then upload onto social media platforms. And then, I know it's early, but I do believe that in some cases, and as we go through this, that there are going to be exceptions to utilizing phones at school if they're utilized, let's say, under faculty supervision, or if they're in a specific class period or an internship or something like that, where you can utilize your phones for just that period of time, so that we can continue to create great content. They definitely are tools. We want to be able to use them. But we know that some of you are running into some roadblocks. So I just wanted to share a few resources or ideas that you could use to try to get around any new cell phone policies. Now let's get into an amazing conversation with Tyler Moberg on AI. Let's get started. Welcome to the podcast, Tyler Moberg. How are you?
I'm amazing, Andrea. Honored to be here. Excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, and you're in Minnesota, right?
That's right.
What
Yep.
location?
Minnetonka, just outside the Twin Cities.
Okay, yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
lived
What?
in Woodbury for years. We actually just
Oh,
sold our house in Woodbury. The last of my stepsons just graduated high school, so we got to go from two houses back down to one house. So that's a good thing. But
and you're
not
not
very
in the.
far. Go ahead.
Oh, where are you? Where are you now?
I'm in New Auburn, Wisconsin. So it's a super tiny town. And it's about 500 people. We're about 30 miles north
Uh,
of Eau Claire,
okay.
if you know where that is. So,
Yeah.
it was only about an hour and 40 minutes between doorsteps, but it's life's a lot simpler now that
Yeah.
we're down to one house. So,
Yeah.
well, I'm really excited to have you. This is kind of a first. I don't usually meet people when I first have you on the show, but we're meeting for the first time. So, why don't you share your background and your role as an AI learning specialist at Amplified Impact there in Minnesota?
Yeah. Well, so I started my career as a middle school science teacher,
Okay.
and a good chunk of my career in that, and got an invitation to join as an instructional coach, instructional leader in Edina at Southview Middle School, and never really thought that was for me, but like discovered a passion for it and a love for growth and development and designing, meaningful professional development. And from there, had an invitation to join a company called the Bob Pike Group, where for a couple of years I got to travel around the country and consult organizations on their training practices and how do you deliver good training where people actually walk away learning and retaining, not just like sitting and getting and passively being told stuff. And um, loved that work, super passionate about it, neuroscience based, research based stuff, but started using AI in that and in my own work and developed this like a passion and a love for like, wow, this tool can really amplify your ability to make an impact, right? Like, and that's the name of my company now is Amplified Impact, where I started this with the hopes of helping professionals learn how to leverage AI in their everyday work so that they can work more effectively and efficiently. So, uh, yeah, I've been working with all kinds of different organizations, and we can talk more about that. But that's kind of where I'm at right now, and it's just been an amazing journey.
Yeah, well, the reason we're connected is because my good friend, and she's been on this show, I think, a couple times, Alice Seufert. So she is at Matamidi Public Schools. She's an amazing, school communicator. She just said, "Hey, I went to this training. I got so much out of it, and I think you would be he would be really good to have on the podcast." So, tell me more about how you met Alice. What kind of training was she in? With you.
Yeah. So with her leadership team, superintendent and district office team, and leaders in the district, we did a 2-day deep dive on inviting AI to their workflow as leaders and educators. And when she came in, I was like, wow, I was actually really impressed. She had so many great questions and she seemed to really know so much. So I'm honored that she felt that way. Like I really do work hard to deliver and design trainings in a way that no matter if you're really using it all the time or this is like a first experience for you, that you're still getting a lot out of it. Just making it super interactive and like and hands-on. And I think that question of like, how do I actually use this in a way that it makes an impact in what I do? And I think that for a lot of people, that's like a nebulous question, and they hear about it, but then how do you actually get to the point where it helps? And so that's kind of the this deep dive training where we started with high level all the way down to like, let's get some real work done and invite it to your work and your role.
So you did a 2-day kind of specialized session with the leadership team at Matamidi, is that right?
Yes, yes, yep.
Okay. So you offer those types of trainings. Do you offer just more general trainings that people can sign up to, whether it be virtually or in person? I guess what does your
Yeah.
training models or options look like?
Yeah, I mean it ranges anywhere from doing an hour and a half or two workshop, or I've done quite a few different keynotes. Just kind of like giving like this, just basically empowering, equipping people with how to think about AI differently and giving tools and things. And so it could be anywhere from that to a half day to I have all kinds of different modules or options. But when I started, I was with just educators, And then since then, it's sort of branched out, right? I've worked with quite a few different marketing teams, and kind of tailored some content for them. Now, I'm not a marketer, right? So just to be crystal clear for everyone on that is that's not my background, but my background is in providing, high quality learning experiences with the expertise in AI, and so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, my audience, Tyler, those that are listening they're really stretched thin. They have a lot of hats that they're wearing, a lot of things that they're responsible. Some things are repetitive that they do. What do you think is the first step to get started with AI when you might be overwhelmed?
Yeah, that is, I've been there a number of times. I still get there sometimes, right? Just because there's so much, and there's and there's this tool for this and this tool for this, and like, and then there's an update, right? And it's easy to be like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? Should I even, you kind of get like analysis paralysis. And the best advice that I could say is invite AI to the table for 5 or 10 minutes in every single day, minimum. And when people are like, well, what should I invite AI to? And I think we'll hopefully talk about this later, but um, it's higher level work than you realize. It's not just menial tasks. I think it can really be a strategic thought partner. But when you open up a thread and you pick a tool, right? That's the other piece. Like pick one tool. Don't, yes, we can talk more about the tools, but pick one and start to get to know its unique nuance and personality. Invite AI, ask, you're going to learn, you can learn how to talk to it, but invite AI to help you with that task. And I think, at least my experience has been as I coach people and use it myself, is it's better than you think. And you'll get little dopamine hits of like, oh, that actually helped me think better on this, helped me come up with something a little bit faster. And I think that acts as a catalyst to sort of, get your confidence built up. And that 5 or 10 minutes really adds up over time.
Yeah. So, I think there's probably not a day that goes by in my life that I don't use AI. So I think right now I'm already feeling really good, Tyler, because I'm like, okay, I am 5 or 10 minutes a day. I'm doing good.
Yeah.
But I know I'm
Yeah.
just scratching the surface, too. And so, there's so much more that can be done. Obviously, just for like this podcast is specifically about social media. And so
Hmm.
we using it to help kind of create engaging social media posts and our
Hmm.
hashtags and using emojis and trying to grab engagement and get people engaged. That's obviously one easy mode that I think a lot of folks are doing. I personally, I'm not an expert again, but I did write a custom GPT. So I have a custom GPT for my school district, New Auburn, that I'm writing for. And so I kind of have trained it on what I'm
Hmm.
looking for. Is that really, I guess, just an elementary, easy way to get started with some of the AI tools?
Yeah, I mean, my experience has been not enough people are making custom GPTs because that term, you're like, oh, I made and I trained a custom GPT. Like that sounds scary to some people, but like you got to realize like the way it functions is it's a natural language processor. If you can describe something, you can make it come to life. You can have it do that thing, right? And so like, I think that idea is like you have to be really good at tech to be good at AI to make a custom GPT, but it's like actually you don't. You just need to be a good communicator to be able to delegate and to give directions. And so absolutely that would be amazing. I think for some people they get stuck there. They're like, how do you make a, I mean, and it's so intuitive when you get in there to be able to when you actually make
Can you
those.
give the basic breakdown of if I wanted to build a custom GPT, what does that mean and how would I go about doing it? And this
Yeah.
again is on Chat GPT. That's the one that I use the most. And we will talk a little bit more about tools right after this. But just if I was to
Yeah.
create a custom GPT, can you
Yeah.
walk me through that?
Yeah. Well, I think we'll start like what is a custom GPT? Here's what I would describe it as. It's like a pre-prompt or a built-in prompt, which is a set of directions that you're giving to AI that you can upload artifacts or documents. Let's just pretend since this is, maybe you have a brand style guide you want to put in there, right? You can upload a knowledge base is what it's called. And then basically, rather than start a fresh chat thread every single time you wanted to do a specific task, then you just press a button in ChatGPT and then you activate that basically pre-prompt so that it's ready to go. One of the benefits to that, like, I guess, when would you make one of these? My advice is if you do something more than 3 times and it's like a repetitive process. Like for me, I write a lot of proposals or I write a lot of contracts or whatever, right? And you could probably name some things in your world. If you do something often and you want to get consistent answers and responses, you'd want to build one of these. And yeah, in ChatGPT, you have to be in the pro. That's a $20 a month account, and there's a little thing called the GPT store, which is not a store because you don't need to buy stuff, but you just click on store and then you hit, create GPT or my GPTs and you can hit plus and create. And then there's a little thread that you just describe what you want and it'll build it for you, right? That's the easiest way to go about it. It's just basically you describing, hey, I want to make a GPT that does X, and then it'll actually help you write the directions. And Andrea, when you said that you trained it, what you probably did was iterated or tweaked the directions that are in that background to make it do what you want because there's always a refining process, right?
Yeah, I think that's the best thing too is, you start using it, you can give it past posts that you've written to give some examples. But then sometimes like with social media posts, it can go a little emoji heavy. So it's like, dude,
Hmm.
like back off on the emojis. And you can tell it that.
Yeah.
And I even specify I want them at the beginning or end of sentences and not in the middle because of ADA compliance. And, there's a lot
Hmm.
that you can end up feeding into it. And I was surprised that I could figure it out because I was really nervous and
Hmm.
scared when I started. And I
Yeah.
do a lot of training just in like my membership group where we've got folks from all over. And I always feel a little bit vulnerable because I'm like, I'm not an expert at this, but we're just going to jump in and try to
Which is
figure
the
this out
best way to
together.
do it. Yeah.
And
And
so,
And I'll say like your strategy there that I think is really good for people to be aware of. If you give examples or exemplars of what you would consider high quality posts and you upload that to the knowledge base, or let's just pretend you're not even making a custom GPT, you just upload that or copy and paste them into the thread. And if you say, hey, study these, learn from these, and be inspired by them to do this new thing that I'm doing, that's actually it's called single shot or multi-shot prompting. That's the fancy word for you give it examples and it learns from them and gives you more like that. Like that's an amazing prompt strategy. Hmm.
okay, awesome. So
Yeah.
let's talk
And
about the
well,
tool.
can I just say this real quick? Because I think it might be helpful.
Yes.
Custom GPTs in Chat GPT, then you have Claude, which is so good at writing, we can talk about. But in Claude, they're called projects.
Okay.
In Copilot, they're called agents, but they're not really agents, but it's the same idea. And then if you're using Google Gemini, which I know a ton of education systems are, you can build something called a gem. And all of these same premise. It's a built-in prompt. And the cool part about Gemini, if you're using Google Gemini in your district or your organization, is that it is free in the education tier. So you don't need to be paid to make a Google Gem. So that's good to be aware of. And it's super intuitive. There's a little to it, but just thought
Okay.
I'd share that.
Yeah, that's helpful because that leads into my next question is just like what tools do we need? And then
Hmm.
what do we really need to pay for to be able to get good results? So you just kind of talked through some of them, and I think maybe some have right now. We're
Hmm.
recording this
Yeah,
on
I
September
like
10th.
that language right now,
Things
currently,
always
today.
change, and that these tools are always
Yeah.
getting better. But I
Yep.
guess, what tools do you think are important for our listeners to know about? And, maybe just some of the differences or nuances of what might be better at
Yep.
something than another tool.
Yep. So there are literally thousands of AI tools, and there are ones that are niche specifically for whatever your role is, right? Like for educators, just because that's what I work with. There's Magic School, which right gives buttons to help you do the things that you want to do. But what I think is really strategic is to pick one of the 6 major, what they're called frontier. Most of these are frontier or like the biggest platforms. Pick one of these 6 and get to know it. And if you build a skill set in how to interact with one of these 6, it's gonna be transferable. Like the skills of knowing how to talk to it and the mindsets that you bring along with that and like how you think about, the interactions are transferable things. So I'll say this. So here's the six.
Yeah.
And in and I'll go in order of my favorite.
Okay.
ChatGPT,
Okay.
Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, Grok, and Copilot. Some people use Copilot because it has, and each of those, they all have personalities, they all have strengths, they all handle data differently. Most of them, if you want to pay their 20 bucks a month, know that free isn't free. Free does means you have less control of your data. But if you pick one of these, and let's just talk about, we already talked about Chat GPT. Let's say Grok, because I think this audience might really, if they're not used, or I'm not sorry, Grok's great. Claude.
Okay.
Are you using Claude, Andrea?
I've used it a little bit and I've heard that with writing and things that it's actually better than ChatGPT, but I'm really focused on ChatGPT right now.
Right. Yeah, because it has a memory, ChatGPT, and all of these now have gotten a memory that you can turn on where it gets to know you. And I think that's really helpful context, right? But Claude is better with language. In my anytime I'm writing something, I will go to Claude and I'll, in this world of writing, which I have caution about, by the way, I like to get lots of different ways to say something. Give me a menu, give me 10 different ways to say this, options. And then I like to select the ones that resonate with me, or my voice to then work with. But I think, yeah, if you haven't tried Claude, I'd say that would be a really good one worth trying. Um, Ask me a question about that because there's a few more things I'd be happy to talk about.
Well, I guess just, I've heard of Perplexity. Is there and like Copilot is from Microsoft, right? Grok is
Yep.
through Twitter, Gemini's through Google.
Yep.
Perplexity is just on its own, or who's
It is perplexity,
okay,
right?
and it is Claude and it is
Yeah,
ChatGPT.
yeah. And like, yeah, Claude's by Anthropic and ChatGPT is by OpenAI.
Okay.
Yep.
That helps. What about people who think they have to know them all? I mean, because
Yeah.
sometimes, and I
Well,
guess for me, there's so many like little ones, like you said, that are so niche specific. But then it's just
yeah.
like, okay, like I think there's one out there that can create a song based on any kind of topic.
Suno, so fun. We could
Yeah,
make
so
one. Yeah.
Suno's fun, but it's
Yeah.
like, okay, how practical is this
Right.
really in my life?
Right.
And do I need to spend time with? So, like, I just have this like yin and yang of like, yeah, they're fun to learn and whatever,
Yeah.
but then also like I still have to get my crap done. And this is just kind of figuring out fun stuff to
Yeah.
do. I really want it to be functional and help me make myself more efficient and more effective at my job. So, can you
Yeah.
talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. Before I do, I gotta say, you gotta go into Suno and make a little podcast intro jingle, right? Like that'd be fun.
Yes.
But here's like I think good awareness to have is like a ton of these niche tools do something. This is a fancy word. They do an API call. All these niche ones do an API call to one of these big ones. In fact, like for example, Copilot is actually calling on ChatGPT to get its answers. But like if you realize that all of these niche ones can do the big six that I shared can do the same things if you know similar things mostly, if you know how to ask it and if you know what to ask and how to interact with it. Um, some people might want to learn all six because they have a unique personality of like the way they output or a signature strength. But what keeps happening is every week there's an update. And then some, like for example, memory. I was like, so I love ChatGPT for the memory. Well, then, okay, now Claude has a memory. Okay, now Gemini has a memory. They all keep kind of like, oh, I like that feature. Oh, I like this canvas button where I can go in and edit live, right? So, um, you don't need to learn all six, but it is if you have the time or the if you want to invest in that 20 bucks a month, for me, it's the if I even picked one, it's the best $20 a month that I spend, hands down, in terms of the what I get out of it. Um, but one thing that I think is cool when you do have more than one is to contrast or pit them against each other. So like I might generate an answer in Gemini and Claude. and I might say, from the same prompt, and I might look at both, and I might throw in Claude's into Gemini and say, hey, here's what Claude said. What do you think? Or what are some good things about this? Like, let's take your version and this other version, and let's come up with some ultimate answer that might have different perspectives or angles to come up with something even better. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do all of them have an audio button now where you can, instead of having to type
Oh,
something in, where you
yeah.
can just talk to it?
Pretty much. I actually don't think that Claude does in the browser yet.
Okay.
Let me see because I'm curious because I have a little I have a program called Super Whisper on my computer and I basically type I'm a huge proponent from voice to text, and I have one that I just do on my computer. But in most of these tools, they have that little dictate button. And I love the dictate button because a number of reasons. I'm more likely to give way more context in the prompt because I can be messy and I can ramble because generative AI needs a lot more context than you realize because it's a pattern predictor. So the more that it is aware of what you're trying to do, it's going to generate generative AI a custom answer for you. So I highly recommend anybody who's not dictating their prompts. Now, there's a difference between the dictate button and the voice to voice button. There's like voice mode where you talk back and forth with it. And there's use cases for that. But what we're talking about is this. Let's press the voice to text button, which is called dictate. And yeah, pretty much all of them have it. And if they don't, you can get the app and do it in your phone and do it there.
Okay. Because I was just listening to a podcast with Gary Vanderchuck, Gary V, and he said, a lot of his prompts are like 5 to 7 minutes of him talking
Yeah.
to it. So it's like it's
Yeah.
not just, the little things like, hey, help me with this. And obviously the better, the more information you give it, the better responses you're going to get back, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, where we're used to Google searches, 5 to 7, 7 to 9 words. That's how most people are prompting at the beginning. But as you learn more, 21 word minimum is a number according to a study by Google. But yeah, give it all the context. What I like to do is imagine that I'm meeting somebody who's really capable. Um, who I've just met for the first time, and now there's memory, so that helps with some of the context. But like, you basically tell AI, here's who you are, and here's what you're really good at. Here's what I'm trying to do. Here are my goals. Here's how I'd like it to look. Then you really, clear is kind, right? The more clear you are, the more likely you are to get outputs that match your goals. And yes, there are tricks to prompting. I wouldn't even use the word tricks. It's good communication, right? But there are
Right.
good elements of good communication. Um, I was working with a marketing team at Optum, and I was teaching about prompting, and someone raised their hand and they go, so is this kind of like a marketing brief? And everyone looked around and they were like, yeah, actually, this feels like a marketing brief. And you tell me, Andrea, I don't make marketing briefs. Does that resonate with you? Does that feel accurate? Or creative brief? Creative brief. That's the word. Creative
Oh,
brief.
okay.
Yes? No?
Um, well, I guess I'm not as familiar, I guess, with that term either, but you're talking about what you're putting into it as the prompt, is that's kind of how they described it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I really view AI. I mean, obviously there's so many opportunities, but that leveraging it as a thought partner,
Mm-hmm.
to really kind of work off some ideas or struggles or whatever, I
Mm-hmm.
really see it as a valuable tool. And like you said, if you are doing something more than 3 times, then you should probably think about building some kind of a custom GPT, or at least a repetitive prompt that you're able to fill in so that you don't have to keep redoing the same thing, right?
Yes. And just a little tip on that. Whenever you start a new thread, this is a good, I mean, some people who are newer to this, like if you start a new thread, yes, most of the systems have memory and can kind of call back some of those other things, but you kind of want to continue that thread. Maybe you want to revisit that specific chat thread if you want to follow up with that same task or thing that you were working on.
Right.
But that thought leader or the thought partner piece has really resonated with me as well.
Yeah.
And AI is our thought partner. We're the thought leader. and we're in charge of what we put in and how we use it and the outcomes and all that. But I just that has changed for me really the way that I see work too.
Yeah. And I guess just as we're talking, I mean, I think it's very easy for people to be overwhelmed by
Hmm.
AI because it
Hmm.
is so capable and there's so many tools out there.
Yeah.
But a training like yours, where you're giving people space, hour, 2 hours, half a day, 2 days to really dive into it and see and explore, okay, this is my role. This is what I'm
Hmm.
responsible for. Now, how can I actually use that? I mean, I can imagine that the impact of just spending that extra time is really powerful. Can you
Yeah.
hear any feedback or kind of takeaways that people have gotten from sitting with you for a period of time?
Yeah. I mean, having that common experience with people whether it's the same organization or similar roles and hats, and being able to, have that common experience and common language to have real conversations on how this can come alongside them in their work. I have been so thankful for that. And just because of the intentionality around the design for me of like, let's design this in an engaging way that it's worth people's time. Like that's been super fun. I would say, um, can you clarify your question? So speak to,
Well, just takeaways of, especially like when you're talking to some educators and you're going in like you did with Alice's leadership group, like that obviously being able to just spend time with it and then have an expert there to ask questions. You don't just come away from a training, because some trainings you come away from and you're just like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. I don't even
yeah,
know how I'm gonna start using this when I get back. I
yep,
feel like the training that they're going through with you, you're actually working on some of that while you're there. So now all of a
hmm
sudden it's very easy to incorporate that when they get back to the office. And so have you had stories like that in regards to feedback that people have
sure,
given you that it's just like,
oh
hey,
yeah.
this is really changing my work life and the output that I have?
Yeah. I'll share just kind of big picture and then I'll give you an example. But like, I think one of the biggest ahas for people that I work with is moving from seeing AI as a place to outsource your thinking and a place to, maybe just let's just say write your emails for you, right? That seems to be like, and I'm very cautious about that actually, having it kind of like lose your voice and things. But moving from seeing it as it's just a writing tool for low level, easy tasks to strategic thought partner to do high level things that are coming alongside and almost acting like another teammate. Like that's like a big picture. I think, what seems to really resonate and stick with people, and it has with me, and that's morphed through my journey with AI. Uh, I'll give you just like a simple example. So a person went through this training with me. They were in the district office. They went back, and the next week they were working on. They had to rewrite the teacher observation framework, taking into consideration their old version, the new state regulations, and this like culturally inclusive language from a third party. So they had to triangulate three different documents to put together this new framework for teacher observations. And uh, they spent 8 hours with a team of 8 people. And actually, this I should say this happened before the training, right? So they did walked away at the end of the 8 hours and were like, we have so much we don't even we're stuck. Like we made a few things, we don't have alignment, we were spinning our wheels, we were stuck. And after the training, and I actually ended up doing a little bit of coaching with this person. We got together and kind of workshopped this. That's actually really fun, is workshopping real challenges and inviting AI to it. But we took those three documents, we essentially triangulated those and had it generate a draft for each element of the teacher observation framework But it wasn't just like a here, spit out this draft. The way that we did it was like, let's generate a menu of each of these sections so that as the experts, because we're the experts, right? We know the audience and the context and our goals and we're trained and everything. We were able to give that menu to the team and they were able to go through and in a couple hours go ahead and finish that task. And that just that ability to streamline your work, still human in the loop, still applying your own creativity of filtering out like some of the stuff that wasn't helpful or needed and coming out with something that saved a ton of time and was higher quality than it would have been. That I think that might be an example.
Yeah. I know that Alice uses a lot of AI with her, like kind of creating her calendar and creating what she needs to work on first. And so when you're talking about kind of some of that, is that you're having to upload or link up your entire tasks to do? I mean, what does that involve? Can you share?
Yeah. I mean, some of the tools you can sync. I'll give you an example with Google Gemini. You can sync it with your Drive. You can sync it with your calendar. You can, so that you can call on or reference things that are, you can in your email too, right? So you could be like, hey, what are some emails I haven't responded to? Or what, based on my calendar and whatever, like help me understand, help me prioritize these, right? And that there's a privacy thing there and there's level of risk that people are comfortable with. So I think that is just a caution or a consideration. Like, do you want to link that? And are you following, whether it's COPPA or FERPA or whatever your industry legalities are? Um, what you were talking about reminds me a little bit. So there's augmentation with AI. Like it'll help me think better. It'll help me work more efficiently, right? That's augmenting me and inviting AI to my everyday stuff. And then there's like automation, so like sometimes when I think of stuff with emails and calendars, it's automatically, pulling stuff from other places, updating my my documents and right like that's automation versus augmentation.
Okay.
And then there's where it's going now and it's not there yet is agentic AI, which is like almost like it goes through and makes decisions for you and kind of goes through a series of steps without your intervention necessarily or necessary intervention to do more of that higher level or just more work for you, so more tasks for you.
Right.
Is that
Yeah,
is
that
that
helps. I guess when
yeah.
it comes to um safety, security, worrying about some of those things. And obviously, when we're in schools, I'm just thinking about some people have said, hey, if we need alt text for an image, we can upload an image into these tools and it can give us some great alt text options. What do
Mhm.
you think about those concerns? Because in some cases, it's just like not,
Yeah.
anything out on the internet is probably being subject to people being able to see it or access it or whatever. And so I'm not sure
Yeah.
how private anything is. What are
Yeah.
some of your thoughts on that, especially in K-12 setting?
Yeah. I mean, there's COPPA and FERPA and those laws, right? So different platforms have different ways they handle your data. Google Gemini's shared that if you're a Google district, that it falls under their umbrella of basically what you have in your Google Drive is handled the same way as what you do in a Google Gemini chat. That's the way that I've heard it described. Um, however, even if that's the case, let's just say a lot of districts and like kind of like tech experts are that I've talked collaborating with are like, you know what? The less places some specific data is, the better, even if it says it's protected. So some strategies to do things like, you know what? Let's just delete last names here. Let's just anonymize this data. Maybe we have like our own system in the back, right? And before you upload a document, maybe you do a file save as and you delete a column or two, right? Or you come up with some system. So a good rule of thumb is when in doubt, leave it out. Just like anonymize or extract it, because what if what you share in there becomes available in the public domain? Um, it probably won't. And there's a misconception about that even. I think people are worried like, oh, what if I put something up here, in this chat, like let's say my financial information or something. Could somebody in the other part of the world say like, "Hey, what's Tyler doing? Tell me about his bank," right? Um, that's a misconception. It doesn't necessarily work like that because when you input a prompt into, let's just say Chat GPT, it gets sent off to OpenAI's computer supercenter where all the microchips are, and it processes that, but it moves through something called an artificial neural network, and it might learn patterns from the information that I give it, but it is not storing my prompt. It's interacting with my prompt and kicking out another answer. So um, that's a big misconception that people have is like that you're gonna have that stored somewhere. Now, someone could hack my Chat GPT account and get that information from my chat history, but that's different than this other one.
Okay. That's helpful. Okay, we could talk so long. I think everybody understands it's like, hey, we really need to have these conversations, especially at our schools.
Hmm.
Maybe also just a plug for we have state SPRA groups that you'd be awesome to be able to go in and kind of talk with the Alices of the world of how we start utilizing some of these
Hmm.
tools to make a difference in our everyday life. But one question that I have, I'm trying to figure out is ADA compliance, and there's some new regulations coming out in 2026, in the summer of 2026 for schools that directly have to do with social media and captioning, alt text on images. And so there's a lot of discussion around this. And my feeling, Tyler, is social or, AI tools are changing so fast. Obviously, Meta is in that loop, and, all of these social media channels are in that loop. And so my feeling is that by the time we get to June 2026, like there's a lot of things that are inherently done by AI for, let's say, alt text on an image where it really can be
Hmm.
able to understand it and explain it better than even anything that I can type in. What are
Hmm.
your thoughts on that? Or is this something brand new? Maybe you weren't thinking about that, but I just I can't help but think AI is for some of these issues that we're really worried about, really consumed on trying to solve in the K-12 space, even with PDFs and being readable and all of that. What would you say to that
So
question?
your question around like, so I love that example for alt text on images, right?
Yeah.
I was speaking for this Minnesota Department of Transportation, and they were manually going through and typing all the alt text, and then we were collaborating. I was like, well, did you consider uploading the image and having it write your alt text? I'm assuming that's what you're doing right now. Is that what you're speaking to, Andrea?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's that option, but
Yeah.
but also I feel like
Yep.
the platform itself is going to have that built right
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
Facebook or Instagram, where
Yep.
it's not going to be an extra step. It's just
Yeah.
automatically going to be reading those images so that it can tell you,
Yeah.
for an impaired person that they know what's happening. But what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me a little bit like the new AirPods just got really or to shared. Did you hear about this?
Uh-uh.
They do live translation. So I could be talking to you and hearing it in my own language and translating, right? Um, and with the ability for AI to see your screen or for on your phone, like there's an underused feature even in ChatGPT. If you go to that voice to voice conversation mode, it's in the bottom right of your app. You can press the video button and it can see whatever you're showing it. Um, Google Gemini Studio also has this. I can share my screen with it, and it can talk to me and describe what's on my screen. It can I can even tech troubleshoot. I can be like have a program pulled up, and I'll be like, hey, what do I do now? Oh, you see that box up there in the right, right? So like that that's a thing right now. Like if someone needed to have stuff interpreted and to talk with the text or the images or the PDFs, that's a feature that's available right now, but it's not mainstream enough yet, right? So like,
Okay.
I guess if you were to, my opinion, right, as you look into a year or two, like that'll just be embedded into everything that we do.
Right. Yeah. And I can't predict the future, obviously. If I could, I wouldn't even be doing this job anymore. I'd be on a beach somewhere. But that's why we got to stick together. It's why we have podcasts like this so we can listen and learn and grow and push ourselves to try new things. So I guess as we wrap up, I mean, I want to put a plug out for you. We've got your contact information in the show notes. So it's Amplified Impact is your organization.
Hmm.
And you go out and you do these personalized learning things. Do you do things over like a webinar format too, or are you more in person with folks?
Yeah, I do both. I do through Zoom, make it interactive and yes, and in person is always best. I think, right? It's always just better to have those in-person experiences, but I definitely do both. And I work with people. I mean, I started with educators, then I was working with leaders, but I've worked with sales and marketing and engineers and HR or different departments in different areas, and just kind of feeling out, what are the needs and do a little bit of customizing to the experience and yeah, I would be happy to talk to anybody about whether it be, a keynote or a workshop or a, crash course, whatever. Um, I'd welcome that conversation.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Well, we might be
Yeah,
talking a little bit about my event in Stillwater next month or next year in June of 2026. We're going to be talking about AI, and so that'll be really
awesome.
fun. We always like to end, Tyler, with just a question on what's your best social media tip. So I know you're focused on AI, but what would you
Yep.
say would be your best social media tip?
I need someone to help me with my social media because I don't communicate enough what I'm doing, right? I would say, okay, so this is like a personal experience of learning the hard way. I have, whether it's pre or post trainings or communications, I've had AI draft my email for me. And then I kind of like say, here's what I want, and then it comes up with it. And every single time I've done that, it hasn't landed. I haven't felt like, I didn't get anything back, or it just writing there are look fors and telltales in AI writing, right? We all know about the M dashes. There are key phrases that you always see. There people who see, in my opinion, clearly AI written content don't maybe they don't want to read it, maybe they skip past it, maybe you lose a little credibility. So there's ways to do it right, but from the tip is for me, I still write my own content and then I put it into AI and I ask, how could this be cleaner or sharper still using my own voice? Or what might be misinterpreted by my audience? Or even better yet, if you're clear in your target market, hey, what's going to land or resonate with X as the target market, right? And you can define that, even have AI help you with that. But having it help improve your writing, but not necessarily outsource the voice and the authenticity that I think people really value.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
Yeah, I think authenticity. I mean, I guess when I do have it help me with emails, and I do, I write the email
Hmm.
completely, and then I just ask it to help improve it.
Yeah.
Um, and then always making the corrections and the M dash being that long dash. We were talking about that in another thing, and so now whenever I see that, I always
Yeah,
take
I
it out
know.
because
It is.
I've always used a lot of dashes in my writing, because I
Because it's
do
good
try to
writing.
write how I talk, and so, but I never use an M dash, so
Hmm.
I take those out for sure. But
It's a charged topic, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually just to share, how do I write emails? I turn on voice mode, the dictate button. I respond via voice, and then I say format this in an email using my voice, right? That just saves me a lot of time because there's a lot of word, fudging, wordsmithing, etc. So
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if nothing else, I'm definitely going to try that out. I need to get back into Claude with some of those language things. I just love that you shared, kind of the six major tools. And then maybe I need to do my Suno podcast jingle. We'll see if I end up using that in the beginning of this
yeah.
interview. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll challenge myself to that. But Tyler, thank you so much. If people want to get connected with you, what is the best way?
Yeah. I mean, my website is amplifiedimpact.solutions.
Okay.
LinkedIn is a great place to connect as well. I'd love for you to connect on LinkedIn. Um, and I'm very quick to respond. I love personal connection, so I'll be quick to probably give you a phone call back, or yeah, I'd love to collaborate if you have anything that comes up.
And are you Tyler Moberg on LinkedIn?
Tyler Moberg. Yep.
Oh,
Moberg.
okay. And we'll have the website and his LinkedIn linked in the show notes. So thanks so much for hanging out with us. I learned a lot today.
Thank you, Andrea. This was a fun conversation. I
Yeah,
appreciate you having me.
absolutely. And if you guys try new stuff, you got to let us know, right? Let Tyler know,
Yeah.
and certainly give him a buzz. I'm sure he'd love to be able to come to your school to be able to help elevate these tools. So we'll be back next week with another fabulous guest. And until then, you guys keep telling those stories. Bye bye.